What is going on, guys? DragonTamerBlayde here, back with some more Elder Scrolls Legends, and today we've got 4 more new Moons of Elsweyr cards to review. I think we had reviews from Earlmeister, Iambits, Aeolus, and Caraconjul? Jul? I think it's Caraconjul. I don't know. I can't really do names. So, you know how we're going to do this. We're going to talk about the cards, maybe go over some stuff in the collections that they can synergize with, and then we'll give it a rating from 1 to 5. So, start things off, we got this card right here. This is from Earlmeister. Prowl Smuggler. 2 cost 3/2 with Pilfer. Equip a steel dagger to a friendly creature. So 2 cost 3/2 stat lines in the early game. We've got the Treasure Hunt card. Sees no play, because Treasure Hunt's not that good. We've got Protector of the Innocent, 2 cost 3/2 Prophecy Guard, sees some play, which is pretty good. Trying to think of other common 2 cost 3/2s. However, there's a couple things that I like about this card. 2 cost 3/2 is quality aggressive stat line for a 2-drop. Since it has 3 attack, you don't have to worry about like ringing your 2-drop out on 1 and your opponent plays a Barrel Stalker that just completely kills your ringed out 2-drop because you had a 2/3 or trades evenly with it or you can't get by it. Any of those things are disastrous. So that's obviously very bad. So 3 attack means you get by any of the early game guards that you would have to worry about as an aggressive deck. Additionally, the Pilfer effect is very good. I know Steel Dagger is just +1 attack, but this is the kind of thing that can kind of get out of control. And another thing or important distinction to note about the card is it doesn't say to a random friendly creature. You get to choose where the Steel Dagger goes, which means you can diversify the power that you have on the board in the early game as the aggressive deck, which means you don't have to put the Steel Dagger onto Prowl Smuggler, although you can. It doesn't say you cannot. It doesn't say another friendly creature, so you can put it onto Prowl Smuggler. However, since this is obviously going to be a pretty high importance card to remove in the early game, you can put those Steel Daggers on other friendly creatures to either take some attention off of Prowl Smuggler, or just you assume that Prowl Smuggler is going to get removed, so you put the daggers onto other creatures so that attack can persist on the board a little bit longer. It kind of curves nicely into a turn 3 Gardener of Swords if you're doing like an all-out items kind of thing, but you probably want to have at least a Maple Shield ready as well for Gardener at that point. I like it a lot. It's like not a super broken card, but it's a very fair stat line on the cost and powerful effect for aggressive decks. So I don't want aggressive decks to be completely ignored, but this is the kind of card that I like. It's kind of snowbally. It has aggressive attack stat. It has an ability that kind of pushes more damage onto the board, but also gives you a chance to answer this. Like, this card would be busted even if it had like a little bit less attack and charge. The fact that you have a turn to answer it makes it much more fair. I think this is a very well-designed card. It's one of those cards where you look at it and you're not like, oh my god, wow, but then you start thinking about the different ways you can use it and you're like, this is a sneaky good card. And that's kind of my rating for it, is like sneaky good. You look at it and you're like, alright, whatever, that's a decent 2-drop. But then you start thinking about it and you're like, alright, this is a solid card, and I think we're going to see a fair amount of this. Especially because in aggressive decks outside of Crusader, your 2-drops aren't always like super appealing. You've got like Greystone Ravager for a Prophecy, but it's obviously very frail. You've got Circle Initiate as a 2 cost 2/2 with a lot of upside. You got your Stormcloak Vanguard and Orc Clan Captain. Like, all of them are decent, but there's not a ton of like really good ones outside of playing Crusader and having Riftthane. All the other ones are like enablers or eventual upside, whereas this card is like good immediately. So I think this could fit in very nicely into a lot of aggressive decks that are running red. We'll see. I think this card's like a solid like 3.5 star card. I think it's going to be really good in Arena as well. Not that I really rate based on Arena, but I like to give Arena little shout outs when I have the opportunity. But yeah, really solid card. I think it's really good. Next up, we've got Monastic Champion. This was revealed by Ian, I think, today. 5 cost 6/5 with Breakthrough and Pilfer. Summon a 3/3 Cathay Rot. So, stat line, solid. Comparable to something like a, what's it called? Phalanx Exemplar has a 5/6 guard. This is a 6/5 breakthrough, so they both have 5/6 reversed with a keyword. However, this card has two keywords. The Pilfer summons a 3/3. And the breakthrough means that even if your opponent puts the guard out, you have the opportunity to break through and summon that 3/3. So I think that the breakthrough gives this card a huge boost. If this was just a 5-cost 6/5 with Pilfer, I would say this card is decent, but wouldn't be like super big on it. The breakthrough makes it a lot better. This is still going to be a removal magnet, just like your Blood Dragons are on 5, just like your Torval Extortionists are on 5. However, like I said, this having breakthrough makes it a lot better. This is also a really great target for things like Squish the Wimpy. The 6 cost can kind of treat this as almost like a javelin, because not many things in this game have more than 6 health. And additionally, if you're removing something, you can break through, summon a 3/3, and even if this thing dies immediately after that, it removed something and left a 3/3 behind, and a 3/3 is not a half-bad body. Especially if you can trigger it once or twice, that's really, really good. Again, it's another one of those 5, 6, 7 cost cards that doesn't do anything immediately, which kind of struggles in this game. We have a lot of really good 5, 6, 7 cost, or mostly 5, 6. 7 slots a little light in this game. But we have a lot of good 5 and 6 cost cards that ultimately can't hold up over time because they don't do anything immediately. And if this card kind of struggles, it's going to be because of that reason. Just because there's so much removal by turn 5, 6, 7. You've got everything from your Edicts to Sanctuary Raid that nobody plays, but this is just the number of options that you have for removal in that slot, in that frame, when this card would be coming down. That's typically why those 5, 6 cost cards struggle, is because there's just so much hard removal that cards that don't do something right away kind of fall by the wayside in this game. But I still think that this card has a lot of potential. If we have other battle effects or stuff like that, this card can get even better. The Pilfer makes it really good, and Pilfer in the dream scenario with like a Master of Thieves means you have a 6 attack Pilfer creature attacking twice, and typically your Pilfer creatures have lower attack outside of like a... What's the 6 cost card? Not Torval. Can't remember the name. The 6 cost 4/4. Quinral Burglar. That thing can get big, but even then it's a 4 attack, 6 cost creature. This guy starts with 6 attack. I think it's the highest. No, Brellock Commander also has high attack. But this is up there in the highest attack Pilfer creatures in the game, meaning with Master of Thieves, this can get really, really good. Really, really good, actually. So I have a little bit of hope for this card. Again, those same issues that I mentioned before when it comes to removal will remain to be seen if this card can overcome that. But this is another one of those cards where they're pushing Pilfer this expansion. They've basically confirmed that they're trying to push Pilfer across a bunch of colors and give it new synergies. So I don't want to completely count it out. So I would give this card like a floor of 3 stars. This could go up to like a 3.5 to maybe even 4 stars if they push Pilfer hard enough. But that I'd have to see the rest of the set to confirm. So I would lock it in at 3 stars for now, just based off of creature quality and effect. And there's some room for improvement over time with this card. Next up, we've got Imbued Altmer, which is confirmed to be being changed to Imbued Bosmer and a Wood Elf by CVH. I know there were some people who were saying this was like a not fitting lore-wise or something like that. But we've got a 1-cost 1/1 lethal, and when Imbued Altmer is consumed, give the consuming creature +1/+1 in lethal. So, a lot of people are just dismissing this as nobody plays Deadly Draugr. That's true to an extent. You've got a 1-cost 1/1 with lethal, which is, as far as 1-cost cards go, it's not going to push a ton of damage, but it kind of acts as like pseudo removal, especially, and this is the key here, this is in green, which means it can be run in Archer, which already has all of those ping effects, and this is just another ping effect to add to that pile. Because even though it only has 1 attack, the lethal means it removes anything. So that makes it a little bit better. Even if it didn't have the other text and it was just a 1-cost 1/1 with lethal, it's better than Deadly Draugr because it can be run in Archer. Additionally, this is the kind of stuff that I was hoping to see from the consume mechanic, is Imbued Altmer, while not a consume card, it is consume synergy. So, with the only other consume card we've seen so far, we've seen one other one, but the Neophyte, the 4-cost 4/3 that consumes a creature and summons a skeleton with its keywords. If this consumed Imbued Eventual bosmer, it would be a 4-cost 5/4 that summons a 1/1 skeleton with lethal, and the Neophyte would have lethal as well. So this kind of effect, I think, makes consumed a much more interesting ability. I was hoping that they would do stuff like this, because now you have the reason to run consume synergy in your deck, and additionally, you can kind of play with which creature you consume based on the needs of the battle at the time. So again, I know the Neophyte, I think, was purple, but so you may have Imbued Bosmer in your discard pile and another card that does something like, when this card is consumed, battle an enemy creature. And you can kind of choose which one fits better in the battle for that point in time or for that turn. So I'm hoping there's a variety of effects that come from a creature being consumed, and we kind of continue, even if it's like a whole, suite of 1-cost 1/1s across all 5 colors that do something when they're consumed. I think that would be a very interesting suite of cards to release to give consumed, a little bit of juice. Because the last couple mechanics we've had have kind of fallen flat, so I wouldn't mind if they kind of gave this one a little bit of extra juice to make sure that it connected in some way. Even if it's not a tier 1 deck, it just needs to be more viable than the last couple mechanics have been. And this is a huge step in that direction. I'm a big fan of this card. Overall power level of the card isn't sky high, but it's an important card. I don't give star ratings for importance, but these are the kinds of supporting roles, those kind of fill out the rest of your deck cards that a deck needs to really exist. And again, this is going to be another one of those asterisks, because I still need to see more from Consume before I can really make a definite judgment on this card's power level. But I would say at the moment, I'd be confident in giving it like a 2-cost or a 2.5 stars, just because of the 1-cost 1/1 lethal in Archer colors is already enough for me to give it a little bit of hope. Where you're lethal, Archer will find a way to run you, and if Archer colors gets even one decent Consume card, this card can be a 3-star card easily. 2.5 stars at the moment, just because it makes lethal pinging in Archer better, and we can see where this card goes from there. Maybe I'll revisit the Consume cards once the entire set has been revealed. And finally, the card revealed from Kara Konzul. Actually, I also need to go onto Twitter, because they revealed a animation for this card today. And I'm going to show you guys, because it's really, really freaking cool. But first, let's just see the card. Blast Bones, 5-cost 3/1 with charge and last gasp. Deal 1 damage to all creatures in this lane. Let's go ahead and take a look at how that ability looks. Oh god, this quality. Oh well, we'll rock it and roll it anyway. It charges. There we go, there's the quality. Skelly Boy shows up, explodes, and deals 1 damage to everything. There's actually a couple new cards you can see in this video. There's a new card. This is a new card. We have a 7-cost Skeletal Mage and a 6-cost Blurred Out Legendary. But I'm sure we'll get to those cards at a later date. Also, this person is playing Skeleton Tribal, so F yes. But besides the point. So, cards to compare it to. Underworld Vigilante is a 5-cost 4/1 with charge that removes cover from creatures. So obviously, these cards are going to be somewhat compared, and you're probably going to have to choose one or the other depending on your deck. So that's a similar one. You've got Battlefield Scrounger, which is a 5-cost 3/3 with charge, and Slay, put a random item in your hand. And they're all going to fill different roles. So obviously this has 1 less attack than the Underworld Vigilante. However, I think this card is more flexible. And by that I mean I think it's better against more decks than Underworld Vigilante is. Vigilante is obviously the better closer, and if your opponent's hiding a bunch of stuff in the shadow lane and they all have cover at the same time, obviously Underworld Vigilante is better than Blast Bones in that sense. However, against like an aggressive mirror, or even like you're aggressive and you're playing against a token deck, Blast Bones obviously is fantastic. It's basically a crushing blow that then deals 1 damage AoE. It's like a crushing blow into a Skaven Pyromancer summon ability. Assuming you trade into something, because this thing only has 1 health. So that's really, really good. And in an aggressive mirror type of thing, most cards that you are attacking into won't have more than 4 health, and a lot of the cards, especially if you've been pinging or trading or battling up to that point, are going to have, 1, 2 health maybe. So Blast Bones can kind of be AoE. You're going to hurt your own cards at that point, but it can be kind of AoE to kind of get you that advantage that you need to win that aggressive mirror. And additionally, because it has charge and 3 attack, and the 3 attack isn't useless, it can be used as a, I don't want to say finisher, but another one of those mid to late game chargers for your aggressive deck to kind of help get that damage from hand to close out the game. So this card can fill a bunch of roles. I don't think it's the best at any of those roles. Obviously, Skaven's probably better for the 1-lane AoE. Underworld Vigilante, I think, is a little bit better when it comes to charger. But this card fills a bunch of different roles, whereas those other cards just do one thing. This card can do a few things. So there's something to be said for that jack-of-all-trades type of scenario. Additionally, because this effect is a last gasp and not a summon, you have the possibility of using something like Skooma Racketeer or Feldew onto Blast Bones, and if you trade Blast Bones in, it becomes like a Doomcrag AoE on a lane. So you'd have a 7-cost, 2-card lane AoE, basically a Dawn's Wrath for non-warded creatures in a color that can't run Dawn's Wrath. So that's not to be ignored either. There's a couple cards that give lethal. There's a couple different ways to get lethal. So that's not to be ignored. I think Blast Bones is very flexible and very cool on that front. I don't know ultimately if it'll be able to break through into a lot of competitive decks. A lot of aggressive decks already have a lot of competition in that 5 slot. But also not to be ignored would be the fact that this card is a skeleton means you can tutor it with Wake the Dead as well. So some sort of, even if you're just playing like a warrior deck that runs 3 different skeletons or a couple different copies of a skeleton, being able to tutor out Blast Bones when you need it is also pretty useful and pretty handy. So that makes it, I guess, slightly more consistent to find than Underworld Vigilante. So if you're like really close to lethal, you can Wake the Dead for your Blast Bones if that winds up being the type of thing that your deck wants to do. That'll be remain to be seen. Again, I think this is one of those like jack of all trades, master of none cards that is good against a lot of different kinds of decks. You'll find a bunch of cards that can do any specific thing better than this card. But like I said, in the case of Skaven, Blast Bones has charge, Skaven does not, so Skaven's a dead card on an empty lane or can't help you push for lethal. Underworld Vigilante, more attack, so it's a better finisher, also can clear cover, however, can only clear one thing. Blast Bones can potentially clear multiple. And you've also got the other synergies, which are lesser used, which may be used more in the future. As far as like a Fighters Guild Hall self-damage type of deck, Blast Bones can be removal and a trigger for all of your self-damage. So that gets really cool on that front as well. So overall, I like Blast Bones a lot. I think it's a well-designed card. It's an interesting card. It's a flexible card. It's not super, super strong, so it's like one of those cards that you have to really think about if your deck can use all of the different ways that it's powerful. But yeah, I like Blast Bones quite a bit. I think it's a pretty powerful card. How would I put its power level? I think I'd probably put this one at about 3 stars. I wouldn't go up to 3.5 quite yet. But I feel confident in the 3 stars area. You could maybe push it to 3.5 if we get even more skeleton synergy. But I just think it's going to see a lot of competition at the moment. And you may want to trade out flexibility for raw power, just with the way a lot of the aggressive decks need to play at the moment. But if there's a meta shift where we're kind of going back towards the mid-range type of life, and you need a card that's good against multiple different types of decks, then I think Blast Bones will shine. And then I could see that going up to like a 3.5 star card. But just with what I know about the meta at the moment, and not having seen enough cards to really say that the meta will be changing in a big way at the moment, I'm going to have to judge it based on the cards that we know, which is what's been revealed so far and what's been existing so far. So at the moment, I would probably trade Blast Bones out for an Underworld Vigilante, but that could easily change in the future, And I think that Blast Bones, like I said, very, very well designed card. So that's it for now. We had 4 new cards revealed. We talked about 4 new cards today. We are fully up to date. Let me know what you guys think of the cards down below in the comment section. Which card you like the most? What would your ratings be? What decks are you planning on putting them in? Let me know everything. But yeah, that's going to be it for now. As always, thank you all very much for watching. See you guys next time.